Goodness gracious. Yes, sister, this is so good. You guys, I feel like I'm at church right now and I like it. And this is the thing, church is everywhere, right? You are the church, and it's that representation. You said it earlier that there can be those blanketing church cultures that can actually keep you in the four walls. And we're meant to go out in spaces like business, spaces like education, spaces like politics, right? Like if that's a calling on your life and you are hearing that from the word and the Lord himself, it's this knowing that you have to activate. So I love that you talked about hearing from God and then taking action over what that word says and making sure that it's in parallel to people who can be mentors, coaches like ourselves, right? Or even just the fellow cheerleaders. Talk to me about who you have in your circle that is not only cheering you on, but praying you on, and understanding that word reciprocation in that, I think, is so critical, because sometimes we can see that we're maybe ahead of, I'm not sure of what, I guess from the cultural standpoint of success, right? And yet the people who are actually in your community, they're the foundation in which is propelling because of the God that they serve. And that if you don't have those cheerleaders, if you're not creating an atmosphere or a culture or a community beneath you, that how are you going to celebrate when it's somebody else's turn? Who are you going to be cheering for at the same time? Talk me through like community building and mentorship associated to that.
Yes, that's so good. And I want to tell you what my favorite one is. And I didn't know about this one until I knew about it, but I didn't know I needed it until it was last year, the top of last year, an intercessor. I needed an intercessor on my team, and I didn't know that. And here's what the thing is, as far as an intercessor and why it's so important to have an intercessor in your community. A lot of times as entrepreneurs, we're the visionaries, we're the CEOs, as you say, we are the founders, the innovators, and the
Come
trailblazers. We
on.
are at the top of things. And so with that being said, there's not always people that's praying and covering us. We're covering everyone else, but who's covering us? And so you need someone to go to bat and intercede and cover you and the things that you are doing, because the enemy is going to be after all of what you're trying to do, because you're a threat to his territory. And so one of the people that you need on your team, I say all that to say, is an intercessor, somebody who's going to pray, who's going to fast, who's going to share insights that they've received from the Lord. And a lot of times they're going to call you up with those insights. And so that's the first one that I'd say. And I do have two of them on my team. It started with just one, and she actually is my podcast, a booking agent, and I didn't know like that she was bringing all this to the table. And before I knew it, she was calling me and she was like sending me Voxers messages, and she was praying over me, and those prayers was like directly in alignment with heaven. And then before I knew it, she started to go in the gaps and interceding. I hadn't told her any of this stuff, and I'm like, oh my gosh. I said, where you been all my life? Like, I need you every
That's
day. Like, and so she started to
amazing.
bring a different type of value that I didn't realize that I needed. And then I have another one who's like my spiritual mother, who is like covering. She knows a little bit more and a little bit more depth about me, and going into bat for me, because I was the biggest one in my community at that time. And when I say that, there was other leaders around me, but they wasn't sowing directly into me. I was sowing directly into others. And I thought that that was okay, because my family history said, hey, you suck it up, you be strong, and you keep going, and you have to be the one to continue to model things. Okay, I can continue to model things, but I need somebody pouring into me.